Imagine paying less than 3 ringgit to travel across an entire city, seamlessly switching between trains, buses, and ferries without buying a single new ticket. Now imagine doing that in one of the world's richest cities. Sounds impossible, right? Well, Malaysia figured something out that Dubai, with all its oil money and ambition, still hasn't managed to crack. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why. If you're watching this right now, I need your help with something. I told my friend in Singapore that Malaysian content creators deserve just as much recognition as anyone else out there. He laughed and said nobody cares about videos like this. Let's prove him wrong together. If this video teaches you something new about our own country, hit that subscribe button. Let's show the world that Malaysians support each other. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Now, before you scroll past thinking you already know everything about our public transport, let me stop you right there. Because what we're about to explore isn't just about trains and buses. It's about a philosophy of urban mobility that took decades to build, and most Malaysians don't even realize how special it actually is. I'm going to show you the numbers, the real comparisons, and one specific detail about how our system works that genuinely surprises people when they hear it for the first time. Let's start with the basics, because context matters here. Dubai is one of the wealthiest cities on the planet. Its GDP per capita sits around 43,000 US dollars. The emirate has poured billions into infrastructure, into gleaming skyscrapers, into a metro system that looks like it came straight out of a science fiction film. The Dubai Metro opened in 2009 and covers about 90 kilometers of track across 2 lines, the Red Line and the Green Line. It's beautiful. It's air-conditioned. It's modern. And on paper, it sounds impressive. But here's the thing. Impressive-looking and actually integrated are 2 very different things. Kuala Lumpur's rail network, when you include all the lines operated under the Prasarana umbrella and the KTM commuter and the MRT and the ERL, covers over 200 kilometers of track. The Klang Valley Integrated Transit System connects millions of people every single day. And the key word there is integrated. Now let me paint you a picture. Say you're staying somewhere in Ampang. You need to get to Putrajaya for a government appointment, then swing by Subang Jaya to meet a friend, and end your day somewhere in Chow Kit for dinner. In Kuala Lumpur, you tap your touch-and-go card once. You move through different rail lines, different operators, different parts of the city. Your card handles it. You don't buy a new ticket at every station. You don't need a different card for the LRT versus the MRT versus the monorail. One card, one journey. Done. Try doing that in Dubai. The Dubai Metro is operated by the Roads and Transport Authority, which is fine. But Dubai's overall transport ecosystem, when you zoom out, tells a different story. Bus connectivity to the metro is inconsistent depending on the area. Many residential zones, especially the newer developments further from the center, have very limited feeder bus services. And if you want to travel between, say, Abu Dhabi and Dubai using public transport, your options become significantly more complicated and fragmented. Malaysia runs integrated bus rail connections through the Rapid KL network. The T478, T780, and dozens of other feeder routes exist specifically to plug the gaps between rail stations and the neighborhoods that trains don't reach directly. And these buses use the same touch-and-go system. You're never stranded just because the train doesn't stop exactly where you need to go. Sound familiar? If you've ever jumped on a Rapid KL bus right outside Masjid Jamek station to get to somewhere deeper in the city center, you've experienced exactly what I'm talking about. But wait. Let's talk about the thing that really separates these 2 systems. And this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Affordability. The average single journey fare on the Dubai Metro costs between 3 and 7.5 UAE dirhams, depending on how many zones you cross. Convert that to ringgit, and you're looking at roughly 4 to 11 ringgit for a single trip. Now compare that to KL. A journey from Gombak all the way to Sri Petaling on the LRT, one of the longest possible single-line trips, costs around 4.80 ringgit. A short hop within the city might cost as little as 1.20 ringgit. And for regular commuters, monthly passes bring that cost down dramatically. Remember what I said about philosophy earlier? This is where that word becomes important. Malaysia made a deliberate policy decision. Public transport is a public good. It's not primarily a revenue generator. The government has historically subsidized fares to keep them accessible to ordinary workers, to students, to the people who actually depend on public transport every single day because they don't have a car. Dubai, for all its ambition, built a system that works beautifully if you're a tourist or a professional with money. But Dubai also has one of the highest private vehicle ownership rates in the world, precisely because for large portions of the population and large geographic areas, the public transport alternative just doesn't reach far enough or connect well enough. Here's a number that puts this in perspective. Rapid KL carried over 400,000 passenger trips on rail alone on a typical pre-pandemic weekday. The Dubai Metro at its peak carried around 600,000 passengers daily across its entire network. Now think about this. Dubai has a population of roughly 3.6 million. Greater Kuala Lumpur and the Klang Valley region houses over 8 million people. The fact that our numbers are even in the same conversation tells you something important about relative penetration and usage. But let me be honest with you here, because fair comparisons require honesty. Dubai's metro stations are genuinely world-class in terms of finish and technology. The Burj Khalifa station, the airport connections, the gold-class carriages, they're stunning. And Dubai has been investing heavily in expanding its network. The Route 2020 extension, which opened for the Expo 2020 site, added new capacity and pushed the network further into previously unserved areas. And Malaysia isn't perfect. Anyone who's tried to take the Rapid Penang bus in Penang during peak hour knows that integration outside of KL still has serious room for improvement. The park and ride facilities at many stations are overcrowded. Last-mile connectivity in areas like Shah Alam or the outer parts of Cheras can still feel like a maze if you don't know exactly which feeder bus runs when. But here's the counterintuitive insight that ties this whole thing together. Malaysia's transport integration advantage didn't come from having more money. It came from necessity and from long-term planning that prioritized connectivity over aesthetics. The Klang Valley Integrated Transit System went through a long and painful period of uncoordinated development in the 1990s and early 2000s, where different rail lines were built by different concessionaires with different ticketing systems, different station designs, sometimes competing for the same passengers. It was a mess. Malaysians complained about it constantly. Mamic table conversations about why you needed 3 different cards for 3 different trains were basically a national pastime. Then something shifted. The government restructured operations under Prasarana. The touch-and-go ecosystem evolved to become a genuine multimodal platform. Interchanges like KL Sentral were developed not just as stations, but as proper transport hubs where you could switch between KTM, LRT, monorail, ERL, taxis, and intercity buses all within walking distance of each other. KL Sentral today is one of the most connected urban transport hubs in Southeast Asia. And it didn't get there because Malaysia is richer than Dubai. It got there because we learned from our own mistakes and built something that prioritized the commuter experience over everything else. That learning process matters. Dubai is still relatively early in its urban transport evolution. The city only really started growing at its current scale in the 1990s, and its metro is barely 15 years old. Malaysia has been grappling with urbanization and public transport planning since the 1980s. That's 40 years of iteration, failure, feedback, and improvement built into the system you step into every morning. And this brings us to the bigger picture. The future of urban mobility isn't about which city has the most beautiful stations or the highest tech trains. It's about whether ordinary people can actually live their daily lives without needing a private vehicle. It's about whether a cleaner can afford to get to work in Damansara from a house in Klang without spending a quarter of her salary on transport. It's about whether a university student in Shiraz can reach his internship in Mont Kiara without his parents driving him. Malaysia, with all its imperfections, has built a system that tries to answer those questions for real people with real budgets. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. So the next time someone tells you Dubai is the model of modern urban development, you can nod and appreciate the aesthetics. But you can also quietly know something most people don't. Integration isn't about how shiny the trains look. It's about whether the whole system moves as one. And on that measure, we built something worth being genuinely proud of. If this video changed how you see our own city, drop a comment below. Tell me which KL transit line you use most, and whether you think the system has improved in your lifetime. Like this video if you learned something new today, and subscribe if you want more content that looks at Malaysia with fresh eyes. We're just getting started.